Hey Skyfarers, and welcome to Aethercast, the Kharadron Overlords podcast, where today we're going to be talking about list building for the custom Skyports. But before we do, let's meet our admirals and have a little chat about the news. So I am the Arkanauts Admiral, Lee. We also have Beards of Glory, our custodian for our Sky Wardens, Mr. Kyle Calip.
Hey.
And we have our very own Grombrindle, Duarte Max.
Hi, everyone.
And potentially, we might be joined by Krohn in a bit if he's woken up from his beauty sleep.
Yeah.
So we jump straight into the news then, because there's a fair bit of it.
Yes.
So obviously, new Daughters of Khaine, new Slaanesh. We obviously can't do a full in-depth review of them. But what are your initial thoughts, guys?
Kyle, you want to go?
I was talking to some people last night, and one of my friends, I've talked about him before, Greg, he plays a lot of Daughters of Khaine. He was actually very unimpressed with a lot of the changes to Daughters. He's under the impression that they kind of got Sylvanethed, in that their new rules actually makes them quite a bit worse. I have mixed feelings on that, but his points did seem valid. One of them was the teleport for Kharadron is now at the end of the movement phase. Mm-hmm. It's not in the hero phase anymore, which means that it makes it a bit harder to do the double tap on the stalkers. The other thing was the fact that the army is now a lot more geared towards like attrition based, or not geared towards it, but the idea of it is that the army tends to get better buffs the longer the game goes on, like Witch Brew. Witch Brew is much better as the game goes on, but the army itself isn't actually durable enough to stick around that long because of all their t-shirt saves and whatnot. So one of the major things that he brought up was the fact that if you have giant blocks of, say, Sisters of Slaughter or Witch Elves now, not being able to make them Battle Shock immune is going to be a big deal. But at the same time, the points have gone down across the board for almost everything. So you have a lot more points to play with for, extra CP or getting battalions or taking some of the cauldrons that you might not have seen before, like the Bloodwreck cauldron, whatever it's called. Might actually start seeing that one now, as it's only 160 points. But the new Hag Queens and stuff they seem really, really bad in most situations. So we're probably going to stop seeing Witch Brew as often. Even for 90 points, even for 60 points, if the thing was a 5-up in the first turn, I probably wouldn't use it. But that's kind of some of the thoughts that I got as far as negative for the book. There's a lot of good things about it. I usually play snakes, so snakes got better. So actually, I'm kind of stoked. But yeah, there's goods and bads.
I think most of what I've seen has been positive, but I don't know if that's because it's contrasted to people's thoughts on Slaanesh, because that's mostly negative. So I don't know. There's that.
Yeah, I'd say for Daughters, a lot of stuff is just being brought up to date, like wholly within auras instead of within. So that's good. It's a kind of a nerf for them, but I think it's good for the overall balance of the game. Let's remind ourselves, Daughters were never bad, never, since the book came out, and this is still AOS 1 book. So I think they're still valid. There's still cool play. There's more variety. You can play snakes. You can play witches. It's not all the same list. They got very cool endless spells, 2 endless spells and a prayer. And I think we might discuss this on a separate occasion as well when we talk about endless spells for Kharadron. But I think the Viper has some good play. So just as a reminder for who hasn't read it yet, the Viper is an endless spell. Okay, someone came
Brilliant.
prepared. Fantastic. It's cast on a 7. We don't care. We just auto-cast it. Set up with a 9. Moves 9, so 18-inch threat range. 40 points is awesome for an endless spell. So that's within the points range where you can just fill a list when you're like 1950, 1960. Think about it. And what this does is you roll 3 dice for a unit within 1 at the end of its move. And for each dice equal or greater than the wounds characteristic, 1 model is slain. So if you have a 5 wound hero, 3 dice, 3 attempts, statistically you should have a 99.9% chance to kill that or slay that 1 hero. Just straight out, he's slain. There's no after save against it, nothing. Or, for example, eels. 2+ save eels unrendable. There's a good chance you can kill 1 or 2 eel with that Viper. And I think the model looks very cool. The other one, the Blade Wind, is maybe a bit more corner case. What it does, it causes D3 mortal wounds to a unit. Sets up with a 9 moves 12. So we have a 21-inch range here. But what is important about this is that the units within 12, not wholly within, but within 12 of this model at the end of its move, do not benefit from cover on their save rolls, which for a shooting army can be very, very good. So this is similar to the high-ish command trait, command ability, where 1 unit, when it's attacking, the target unit doesn't get the benefit of cover, which sometimes it isn't even played because tournaments don't use those rules, but this is a within 12. If you can throw this into your enemy's unit, enemy's deployment, turn 1, there's some play there. So yeah, those are cool. The rest of the Daughters, I mean, Shadowstalker is still 100 points. I think that's way too cheap for a teleporting unit that can 12 wounds that can teleport each round. Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, they're like objectively better than the Keenerai. Just a little bit of a shame, but
and they're just better than Shadow Warriors or something alike. So, you know.
Glade.
Okay.
Yeah. It's worth noting, I think, the fact that these are both 40 points, right?
Yeah, they're
Yes.
both bargains.
Yes.
So what's kind of cool, I don't think there's any rule against taking 2 endless spells. You can't use both of them because you only have 1 spell in a bottle.
Mhm.
But because they're so low priced, usually KO has enough space in order to fit an 80 or 90 or even 100 point endless spell. So you could take both and then just have like a utility pick. It's like, okay, sometimes Blade Wind against specific enemies like Deepkin or Sylvaneth or whoever gets cover just like naturally. Or depending on the map. Sometimes maps are just filled with
when
terrain.
there's the hero, he's lookout, sir, and cover, and who knows what. Yeah.
So the Blade Wind might be useful there. Most of the time, I would say that the Viper is just like a fantastic pickup as well.
Yeah. Both of these are predatory spells, correct?
Yes. There's a backfire for,
There is a backfire, but it's also the double turn thing. You throw it somewhere where if your opponent moves it or doesn't move it, it's still affecting him. So there's potential play there. They're predatory, so they can move around. Yeah, still cool.
I'd actually be scared of the Viper when I'm playing. Like I'm actually playing with Daughters, because it's like, oh, it'd be kind of sad if it just came back and killed one of your snake heroes. It totally happened because your snake heroes move up, right? Like it's like, it's actually kind of scary. But I guess it's a good thing to have just in case.
No, definitely cool play. And I mean, the Viper looks awesome. I think, Lee, you made a suggestion to play him like molten metal, molten gold.
Yeah.
Earlier. That could look cool, like a metal shaman Viper.
Yeah, cool. So I have like a lot of molten gold on bases and stuff. So I would do like these dribbly bits, molten gold, and then do the rest like like a black irony sort of color or bronzy color or something. I don't know. It's the head that I would have to think about more because it doesn't
maybe
I would like
make
to make it more mechanical.
Exactly. the scales are already quite mechanical, but
Mhm.
maybe if you can do even a head swap or make it like give him some plate armor on the head or something. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've been looking at the sprue, and it looks like this top bit is one piece, the bottom bit is another piece, and actually the two bits inside the mouth are separate as well. So
Mhm.
maybe you could just
Put a
take out
magma draw head on top.
Ooh.
maybe,
Yeah.
if it fits. I have no idea if it will
Yeah,
fit.
some green stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Should
but
fit.
and it's open like under here, so you could have like some cogs and stuff.
Ah, okay. So it's not a full body. I haven't seen it.
No, it's like it's made out of blood, isn't it?
Ah, so it's just a shell. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Or there's, I mean, you can always 3D print some mechanical worm, snake, cogwork thing,
Yeah.
whatever. Just take the base size and the theme, and that's okay.
So Apocalyptic Squirrels in the chat has corrected us on the math on the 5-wood here. It's 71.3% chance.
Yeah.
Which
You don't
that's
add up the
about,
numbers.
Why-
You don't add them.
yeah. That is correct. That took me. I was trying to work that out the other day, and I first of all I got 100% on 99%. I was like, that can't
Yeah,
be
I
right.
thought so.
And then I looked into it more, and then I was like, yeah, I got like 72%. So yeah, that is like,
The chance to roll at least 1 5. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so,
And
well,
I
still
think,
75% chance to kill
yeah.
someone. Or a skink hero on a 4+. That's, I'm gonna say 50. I don't know. Quick
Yeah.
math.
And then Eric in the chat is asking if their prayers or end the spell. So the War Scroll does say end the spell, has the keyword end the spell. So as far as I
Yes,
understand, we
just
can take
the Heart of Fury, the heart in the hand. That is a prayer, an invocation of Khaine, and
really?
we cannot use that. Yeah, the third one is a invocation.
Okay, I left that off because it doesn't only buff towards Khaine. It doesn't
Yeah.
help us. So there's
It's
no
a prayer.
reason.
There's nothing you can do against it. It just happens. It's a buff thing.
So that's
Don't-
interesting that they've done a box set and one's a prayer and then two are spells.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's strange
Because they have both. They have priests and spellcasters in their army,
Yeah.
so seems fair. Okay, I think that's all for daughters. Slaanesh. Oh man,
they're expensive. Is the answer, isn't it?
expensive. I like the fundamental changes to the activation wars. That they took away the whole fights last for locus of diversion, but now it's if your demon hero charges, he can roll a dice, and on a 4+, if he's a greater demon on a 3+, I think he fights first. Is that correct? Can't remember. So there's no you fight last, but it's just if I charge you, then I get to fight first. Which,
Is that what?
okay,
Okay.
that's
I thought
the
there
whole
was there's something about no pylons as well, right?
Oh no,
There
you're
is
correct. That's
something
the
as
thing.
well.
They don't. That's only Sigvald. Yeah, you're completely correct. Only Sigvald, when he charges, he fights first. The rest is just when they throw this 4+ or
locust.
3+, the locus, they cannot pile in. So similar to the sharks harpoon or net launcher thing. Yes, you are completely correct. I was mistaken. I confused them.
Although, yeah, I think it's actually worse than the shark harpoon. And you have to be like the shark harpoon does it from range as well.
The shark harpoon just does it from range, so
Yeah.
that's worse for you playing against it. This one, the guy has to come to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, if he doesn't, I mean, if he doesn't attack you like on an edge or
Mhm.
somewhere.
Yeah, you have to attack at an edge pretty much, and so
They have
like
to.
it's great against cavalry, and cavalry I think is going to be the what do you call it, counter to the shooting meta, because you have to cross the board, you have to get there. There's some really tanky cavalry you can play. So
Yeah.
I think it might be looking forward, and that might be a relevant thing later, as I think we're going to start seeing more heavy cavalry armies in the future. But yeah, we'll kind of see how that plays out.
And then the other change is to the depravity system. Now it's just at the end of the battle shock phase, you check any unit on the board, so yours and the enemies, if they suffered a wound or have less models than they started the turn with, generate 1 depravity. And when I first translated this from the Italian scrolls, I thought it was only Slaanesh units. I thought, okay, that's a big nerf, but okay, I'm fine with it. Because now a keeper is 12 depravity points. But then I reread it, and it's like, oh no, it's any unit. And you can just, hurt 3 units yourself with an endless spell that you throw through your lines, MSU units. Then you do some spell casting, then you do some charges. You got 12 points really fast, and this is in any battle shock phase. So after round 1, you can have easily accumulated 12 depravity points after the first round. So that, what is that? A keeper each round? I don't know. Seems like GW's not learned their lesson.
Yeah.
At least you can't convoy line summon. It's 1 summon per movement phase, per your movement phase. Yours or the enemies? I think yours.
Yours. Be weird if it was the enemies.
Yeah, you never know with Slaanesh. Everything's weird. Weird and fleshy and pink.
Yeah, so the other thing is like it depends whether you build towards the depravity sort of build, because if they haven't built towards it, then it's not going to be that great. But if they, there's been talk about taking Rotigus and using him to put wounds on your own models and stuff. And the other thing is like, imagine if it matches up against like a Croak Seraphon build, which is like spamming.
Just spams multiple wounds all over the board.
Yeah, so it's just like depravity everywhere. So I don't know. It's interesting, I guess, but they're very expensive. So
yeah, but they're good.
So we're saying,
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they've run out of. Maybe that's their thing. The units you get are expensive, but you can get more for free. Demon units for free through summoning. So maybe that's their late game. But we've been there. It seems familiar. We've been there. That summoning is too strong. It was too cheap. Then they changed the points, went overboard. Then Slaanesh wasn't as good. Now they went back to 0, restart. Same issue, in my opinion. We'll see. We'll see how they play out. They have some cool movement archers. They have some normal archers. The Slangors are quite meh, in my opinion. They don't do anything.
I think that's a high opinion of them. You're giving them too much credit.
Poor Beast of Chaos players. You thought you get new models. Guess what? They're not good, sadly.
Yeah,
but Sigvald's a beat stick, so he's good. He has an interesting mechanic. Sorry, Lee. That the wounds he causes cannot be negated. So, Gotrek, watch out.
It kills Marathi too.
No, because Marathi doesn't ignore wounds. She just she doesn't negate wounds. She ignores them, but does not negate them.
Yeah. She has a different mechanic.
So he can't slay her. Sadly, that'd be fun.
Well, rip Gotrek then.
Yeah, for 260 points, I don't know how well he synergizes with the rest, but I think he's good for 260 points. He's good.
Yeah, the other thing is he's hard to kill, plenty, because he's not got a huge amount of wounds, but he's got that
6 wounds.
But so he's like a mini Gotrek himself as well, except for the fact he's 50% faster because he moves 6 instead of 4.
His attacks are weird because he has either 5 attacks or whatever his unmodified charge roll was.
Yeah.
So if he rolls more than a 5, then he gets that many attacks, and they all do D3 damage or 2 damage.
Yeah, 3 up, 2 up, -1 or 2, D3.
-2, D3.
I think it's the opposite way around. It's 2 up, 3 up, and he can get +1 to wounds, so he can be like 2 up, 2 up.
Yes.
Yeah, so he can be potentially killing, but he's 1. So from a KO perspective, I'd be quite happy
but one model is enough to wreck an Ironclad.
Yeah, but he's one of those ones that if you can keep away from him, then
Yeah, they got run and charge, pluses to charge. He's fast.
Yeah.
He can get there. But yeah, enough of stupid chaos and elf people.
Yeah. So, in summary, are you concerned about facing up against either of these armies, or?
I think Morathi is always a thing that you need to play around. Either ignore her or half move her with a navigator and just let her be, let her sit on her objective, or let her be and just kill the rest. Or find a way to, we don't have the melee, and defensive, like hammer anvil unit that can just dance around with Morathi for 4 rounds until she's dead, or 4 turns.
Because you need to do wounds in their turn.
Yes,
you
need
have
to do
survive the combat in your turn first.
So you need to shoot at the big one, because the small one always gets look out, sir, and another -1, and I don't know what else she gets. So just shoot the big one. She's a monster, and each turn, and then maybe it takes 3 rounds to get rid of her. Slaanesh, I don't know. They're fast. They can be in your deployment round 1. They can summon, so shoot the heroes. I don't know.
I'm scared the horse archers are going to be really cost efficient. They're going to be really fast. They're going to have a 14 times 2 is 28-inch threat range. I
think it's more. It's 38.
Yeah, because they can run and shoot.
38, yeah.
So they're 14-inch move, 18-inch shooting, and then they can run and shoot. So
38. So more than Sentinels.
Yeah. I mean, they don't do mortals, so that's okay. But they're very cost effective. 180 points for 5 models, I think is what it was. It's a fair amount of shooting power. I don't know if they can buff it so much.
No, I don't think there is many buffs. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as saying they're cost effective. I would say they're, compared to the other Slaanesh stuff, they're on the better side of things. But I mean, if you compare them to something like Thunderers,
Thunderers are way too expensive.
Because they're 4s and they don't. Aren't they 4s and 4s?
They're 4s and 4s.
If they have more than,
they get 3 shots though.
4s and 3s. I'm not sure.
I think it's 4s.
I mean, I translated this in the middle of the night. I can't even remember what I read. Who knows? But not overly concerned. No.
It is a thing. Safeguard, I think, is just going to be very a cost-effective threat. Does he have a 4-up Feel No Pain?
Sigvold? Yes, he has.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's it's going to be like Croak in that it's going to be hard to remove him. Like more hard than we kind of want to spend the time to shoot to kill one model.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like, it's still, you still need to kill the enemy so we can score points, right? Not going to spend a turn killing one model. So 12 effective wounds and -1 to hit and probably a 3-up save. It's going to be not something that we want to do.
Yeah, well, it's one threat that you need to
get rid of. Yeah.
It depends.
We don't have the chaff that we can throw at him. Just take care of this for 3 rounds and don't bother me. We don't have that. Even throwing 3 Endrin riggers at him, I mean, 3 are not going to stop him. So, gun hunters, just throw gun hunters at him. I don't know. Probably
if you can avoid him for a couple of turns, then maybe.
Well, he only gets his buffs when he charges, right? If you charge him,
he only gets the extra attacks and the fight first when he charges.
He still has 5 attacks though.
Yeah.
Oh well. I mean, Ren 2, we have 3-up heroes or 4-up units, so with a reroll from gold.
Do you say 6 wounds?
He has 6 wounds, yes.
You've got 50% chance of killing him with the Viper. So just put that into him.
Yeah, I mean, he is Slaanesh, so 6 is their number, yes.
Yep.
Well, should we move on? Because we could talk about this all night. And I don't know, if you want to hear people talk about Slaanesh and Daughters of Khaine for hours, I'm sure there are videos out there. So
go to Warhammer Weekly. I think those are their armies. Yeah. Check them out.
Yeah, or you probably have to wait till Wednesday. Yeah. So let's talk about custom Skyports. Should we talk about the abilities first?
So where do we find these abilities? These are hidden on the first page of the Allegiance rules. These are the part where you first read, you can be one of these Skyports, pages X to Y. This is how gold works, I think. And then it comes the amendment, footnote, whatever, but you already jumped to the page of Zilfin or Urbaz or whatever. So I had to go look back and like, where are these rules actually? What is this?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
these exist.
So this is what you can take if you don't take a Skyport, basically. So the way it works is you can have one article, one amendment, or one footnote, and then for each of those, there's a choice of 3, but you can only have one of them. So, and of course, it says the normal thing where it says you can roll for them if you want, but does anyone ever do that? Nobody.
Maybe in a narrative fun game, but even then,
I thought about doing it in the tournament. Be like, hey, at the beginning of each game, I'm gonna roll a different one of these.
Okay,
but.
Well, you'd have to roll when you write your list, though, wouldn't you? Rather than
no. Like so you go to the TO and you say, okay, each time I'm going to roll. Most people will accept that as like, okay, if you want to die.
Yeah, they probably would.
Each game, you roll a different one.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Recommend doing that, but
no.
So let's have a look at what there is. So the articles, the first one is Honor is Everything. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Kharadron Overlord heroes that target a hero or monster.
So this is the one we find in Barrack Zone. It's the same name, same ability.
Yeah. The second one is Master the Skies. You can re-roll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly sky vessels that target a unit that can fly.
So this is the Barrack Zilfin article.
Basically, yep. And then the last one is Settle the Grudges. After armies are set up, but before the first battle round begins, you can pick one enemy unit. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by friendly Kharadron Overlord units that target that unit. So basically, Fring.
This is a weak version of Fring.
Version, yeah. Because it's 1 rather than.
Because Fring is Barrack Fring units, and it's free, up to 3 units. So.
Yeah. So before we move on to the others, I mean, would you agree that none of those is particularly awe-inspiring or exciting?
For the first 2 in Zon and Zilfin, those are the 2 rules that I see as nice to have. Oh, I can reroll ones against your flyers with my ships. Okay, I have 2 ships. You have maybe 1 or 2 flying units. Cool, nice to have. Same goes for heroes, rerolling ones or monsters. Yeah, but it's nothing that I build an army around.
No.
If you want to reroll ones to hit, you'd play Escort Wing. Use it for free. Pick something yourself every time.
Yeah. Work it on point.
So yeah, it's definitely a nice to have. The point of this isn't you're building around this. It's you're building around something else. And you want to pick which one you want. Like, oh, my meta, everyone uses flying, but I don't want to play Zilfin. So I'll pick Master of the Skies, but then I'll pick something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we'll get to that point why you actually would choose a custom Skyport and what that allows you to navigate. But yeah.
My pick on this is number 3, Settle the Grudges, because it's the one that you have control over and will always do something. And you don't necessarily...
Until that unit is dead, yes.
You could just use a CP to reroll ones to hit, though. Yeah,
but this is
for every model.
Everyone in the army gets to reroll ones against this. So this is a mini flare pistol.
Yeah, weaker flare pistol. It doesn't have the issues of you go against you don't like if you don't Master the Skies and then you play against Fire Slayers, you don't get anything. And
yeah, exactly. I didn't get anything from that yesterday.
Yeah, or if you take Honor as Everything, but then you have to start thinking, right, well, I'm going to take
a
hero that's actually really quite like a bit beefy, can actually do some work. So you have to build around it a bit.
You've got a point. I really should have taken honor as everything. Rerolling ones against all heroes is just a good thing to have in this army.
But it's only for your heroes.
For your heroes as well.
Oh wait,
this is the Barakzon one, so only the Endra Master gets to reroll his ones.
Oh right, never mind.
Like that.
Yeah,
or the Admiral. The rest are not combat heroes. So
if it's for your whole army, like could reroll hit rolls against heroes and monsters,
heroes?
that'd be great.
Oh yeah, shooting the heroes, sniping heroes. Yeah, but no.
Yep.
Probably number 3 because you can control it. Well, okay.
But I guess you're right. 3 would be the best you can control it, but it's just objectively worse than what you could have.
I think that is a theme that we're gonna encounter several times through this show.
So, I mean, I think we can safely say from the articles, you don't decide to play a custom Skyport because of any of those. That's fair, correct, isn't it? So let's move on to the amendments. So the first one is always take what you are owed. Pick up to D3 Kharadron Overlords units in your army. Each one of those gets an extra share of Aether gold in addition to what they'd normally have. So
yes,
basically.
Yes, it is not just basically. It is the exact text.
Yeah. But it's a little bit different to being Urbaz because you don't get the other things that go with it. So you don't get, the gold from, when the first Skyports unit fights, and you don't get the thing where it stops you, getting the bravery debuff from using gold.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but still, D3 gold.
Yeah. D3 gold is
we like gold.
A good thing because that's D3 triumphs, and if you
one gold for me each game.
Yes, if you roll badly, you need to get some of those weighted dice, Max, and you'll be fine.
I have some here, but don't tell.
The next one is prosecutes wars with all haste. So in your first turn, friendly Kharadron Overlords units can run and still shoot later in the turn. So
Mhornar.
Yeah, basically. And the third one is trust to your guns. Add 1 to the bravery characteristic of friendly Kharadron Overlords units while they are more than 3 inches from enemy units. So just ignore that one because it's rubbish.
Thematically, I like this one. Like, I'm brave because I'm far away. I'm going to shoot you.
Mm-hmm.
But gameplay-wise, do you need that +1 bravery? I don't know.
Like, if that one was in one of the other 2 columns,
so number 3,
you can combine it with number 1, then like you get extra bravery, and to compensate for the fact you're using extra gold, then
still no.
Maybe
no. I think run and shoot is a strong thing for a shooting army. If you're not flying high, but you're bringing 12-man groups of balloon people or big hordes of arkanauts, or the D3 gold is always great because that's the main allegiance ability, the gold. So yeah, have your ironclad reroll hits, and then it saves.
So we're getting a feel of some of the things that we haven't gone on to footnotes, so we're getting a feel of basically you can pick and choose things that you can probably get elsewhere, but it's more the fact that you have a choice of what you combine them with. So let's have a look at the footnotes. So the first one is there's no reward without risk, which is once per battle, you can reroll a charge roll for a friendly Kharadron Overlords unit.
It's not bad, but it's once per battle. It's just you can do it with SCP. The Navigator can do it for ships if he doesn't use his Aether Storm ability. I think Brock can do it with his command ability for everyone wholly within 24 for SCP. No, it's the once per battle. If it would be once per turn, okay, maybe.
The thing about these is some of these you can see they basically haven't changed them from the previous battle tome. Because and I think we had 6 choices for each in the previous battle tome. I might be wrong. I'm going from memory. Because there was definitely 6 choices for the footnote. So So that was one of the footnotes that we had in the previous Battle Tome, and they just kept it. It's not something I would pick personally.
Yeah, just because of all the different sources. I mean, maybe someday they'll get rid of the standard, the default command abilities.
Mhm.
Then this would be fantastic.
That will be
Until then,
the day that Brock arises.
yeah, like I could see it happening. Maybe in 3.0, it's just gone, right?
Yeah.
Like then the
It would-
Admiral will be fantastic. Our
Yeah,
army would be
all the
so
Admiral
good.
abilities don't make sense now. Then they would make sense.
Yeah. And it's interesting because actually, when we had the previous book, before 2.0, like you used to be able to pick an extra footnote even if you had a Skyport in the old book, and so sometimes you'd maybe take. There was a case for taking this in the old book because you'd like, well, even with grapnel launchers and you were doing charges from 3 inches away, you're like, well, I don't want to risk failing that charge, so because you didn't have the command points then, but you do now, so I don't know. It's not a standout pick, is it? So
Could be a thing.
Could be a leftover. Yeah.
Let's move on to there's no trading with some people, which was the best one in the previous book, and that everyone always used to take. But it's got a rework. So once per battle, friendly Kharadron Overlords unit that has run and or retreated in the same turn can still shoot and or charge. So that one's really good, basically.
Mm-hmm. So it's basically a run and shoot or retreat, unshoot and charge.
Yeah.
Which the ships can already do with Fly High. They can already disengage, retreat and shoot.
Mm-hmm.
So this is probably something you want for your Skyfarer units.
Yes. It's one thing to bear in mind is, so if you do it with a ship, is that they can do it without flying high, which means if they move, they can be 3 inches away from the enemy rather than 9 inches.
Yes.
So there's potential use for that. Or if they've taken damage and they can't fly high.
And the main thing I could see this being used, so there's two things actually. One, because all of our heroes have 9-inch weapons, running an ironclad in or a frigate would be good if you unloaded with you had like 6 heroes in a boat that all had 9-inch weapons. And so you're making the most out of that by being able to actually shoot with them on the first turn. I could see that being good, and then following up with a charge off of a battle ram, and then doing it all again in melee. Like if you had 5 engine riggers and an admiral in a boat,
engine masters.
Engine masters in a boat, and you threw them at something. Then it could be good, right? Like you can you can run, shoot, and still charge. I could see that being good. Now, the other thing is that this is the one rule I really wish wardens had built in. Because if they had the ability, or if this was in Zon, right? Something. If you could retreat, then the time charges is actually usable. It's very rare that I ever have a situation where it's at all useful to run away with wardens, because they're too expensive not to be doing something in your turn. And they're too squishy, fragile not to be fighting. They can't take another charge if they get charged by something. So this is cute if you had 12 and you tapped a whole bunch of things and then you're retreating from them, you're dropping bombs everywhere. The problem is if you have 12 wardens, you should be playing in Zon, right?
And then whatever you charge is going to be dead.
Yeah, exactly. If you had 12 riggers, then this wouldn't be a question. I mean, I guess you could retreat and then still shoot, which would be nice.
Yeah, well, it just gives them, run and charge is a useful thing as well. Run, shoot, and charge, so that it gives them. If you've got a CP, then it's 18-inch move basically.
True. True. I can see that.
But it's again once per battle.
Yeah. So this is one of the things you can't get elsewhere. You can't get this in any other Skyport. You can.
Yeah. You can only get the run and shoot first turn and more.
So it does. Yeah, this is one of the things that I think is you would think about if you're considering a custom Skyport. It's like, well, I can get this one thing that I can't get elsewhere. There is a way of getting it in Baz, maybe another Skyport, because Admiral has a command ability that lets you pick another footnote that you don't already have. So if you play that Baz, you could have an Admiral with that command ability, a command trait, and then pick this. But then you're basically losing a command trait to get this.
Once per battle thing.
Yeah,
I think
and the Admiral's got good command traits.
What might have some gas is combining this with the second amendment, which was in your first turn, run and shoot. So if you have a lot of Thunderers or Arkanauts on foot outside of ships, you run, shoot. Next turn, one unit can still run, shoot. So you get a lot of mobility and threat range out of it. But it's a specific thing.
Oh, I mean, when we get onto the list in a bit, I've got there are a couple of lists where this is being thought out what it's being used for. Because there's two ways of doing it, really. You can either use it turn one, can't you? As a way for doing it, some sort of abstract, or you can save it for later. And it, you've got a couple of units in mind where it might be handy for them, either to increase their threat range or if they get tied up in combat. The last one is without our ships, we are naught. So once per battle, you can heal up to D3 wounds allocated to a friendly sky vessel. So,
there's a hero for that who can do it every turn.
Yeah. So I mean, there's
no limit. There's no limit on when you can do it.
Yeah. So that's the main thing. You can use this in your opponent's turn potentially.
Okay.
So you can actually use it potentially when you're allocating wounds. So
but then it's like D3, so 2 on average. Is that gonna?
Yeah,
it makes a difference on the ironclad sometimes.
This has really got some really niche but powerful uses. Like, so for instance, if your opponent has just done, say, if your ironclad was on 8 wounds left and they did 9 wounds. And you're like, well, I'm about to die. Oh, wait, I've got this once per game ability and I can heal D3. And then all of a sudden your ironclad is not slain. And then it's your turn next and then you heal it up. Then the fact that you can use it in your opponent's turn.
Sounds very cinematic narrative construct.
Yeah.
So
like I said, niche.
2 things I have with this. One, there are a lot of situations where you lose fly high. You're 1 wound short, right? That could put you over. That could make a difference. The other thing is the fact that it's actually a free whole. The engine work for the plates. What do you call it? I think it gives you +2 wounds. It puts you from 18 to 20. This is a free engine work if you look at it that way. That remember I think who the one guy who won the first tournament was using that. Like it's a good Tubman. Yeah, Tubman was using it. It's a good engine work, right? It's not my top 3, but if you could take it, you take it, right? Like if you could take it in additional, this is like taking it for free. Except when I say free, I mean you're giving up a Skyport to do it,
which is quite expensive.
Well, the other thing is you can look at it as having 2 engine works on the same ironclad.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
As opposed to having 2 on 2 different ironclads. So there's also that. But
no, I see it, but the cost for doing it, it's not worth it.
So I mean, let's talk about what isn't on screen, because this is what you get given. It doesn't, but that is literally it. So it doesn't force you to take an artifact, and it doesn't force you to take an engine work, and it doesn't force you to take a command trait. So you get a lot of extra flexibility with custom Skyports with that.
Yes, and we have seen some of these we can find in the other Skyports. But remember, the Skyports are free, and they give you an additional rule. Each of them have like 1 rule. Ziflin is you always run 6 inches. Zones, your Skywardens and Skyfarers get pluses on when they charge in combat.
Mhm.
So this is the extra rule that we're missing out, which some of them
Effectively.
are quite good.
Yeah, so it's interesting because obviously you get like they're all nearly always have a command trait, and then they normally always have an artifact of power or engine work, and depending on the Skyport, they're either good or they're attacks, effectively, aren't they? So
Yeah,
it depends what Skyport you're comparing it to, but the fact that you have a choice is quite handy, and that's really what I think. If you're building a custom Skyport list, is what you build around is, what combinations can you make that is not possible to make in a Skyport.
yes, and it liberates you from often the problem, oh, I want spell in the bottle, or I want this artifact, I need a battalion, because there's one already assigned to me.
Mhm.
This liberates you from these 110, 120 points for the battalion, which you can spend on something else.
Yeah. So, I mean, from a general perspective, there's a couple of different builds you can build towards, and it doesn't matter which three of these you take, but you can build towards a thing where you just either don't have a battalion, but then you get the artifact of your choice and stuff, and you build like a high drop version of a Skyport list, but with a choice of artifacts and stuff, or you build something with a battalion or two battalions, and you spam the top your favorite artifacts is there things you can do.
It's like the only way to take 4, right? 4 of your own.
Yes, yeah, I think so. Probably, yeah.
Because you could
especially on
collector. Yeah.
Collector and 2 battalions.
Yeah, four that you choose as opposed to
3. Yeah.
You could do that in
Zilfin, you're stuck with 1.
You're stuck with the staff. Mhornar, you get the staff if you bring a navigator.
yeah. So
If not, you don't. Urbas, you can't get collector. Thring, you're stuck with the hammer. Zon, you're stuck with the hammer. Nar, I have no idea what they get.
They have an artifact. It's
just a generic one, or is it Admiral?
The rune that I hate so much allows you to change 1 dice to a 6 once
Which
per
is
game.
Not bad on an Ender Master on foot for his attack. So 3 more.
But compared to every other artifact in the book.
But yes, there are better ones. So yeah, okay. You could do this in Mhornar, but okay.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a general problem though, whereas you can end up building Skyport Light or like a diet version of a Skyport gun.
Yeah, an outpost.
Yes, an outpost. I've got a Zombek, maybe. Because you can build around, I mean, I think normally if I was when I've been thinking about this, I've been thinking about building around the extra gold or the run and shoot, because they're the standout abilities. And then it's like, well, you build around making Urbaz light or a slightly different version of Urbaz, or you build around like a slightly different version of Mhornar. Or the other thing is when you start looking into command traits, the Admiral's Cunning Fleet Master is interesting, and therefore you build like a Zilfin light.
One thing we have not mentioned yet is when we go custom Skyport, we lose 2 battle line if options. We lose the Thunderers from Barak Nar, and we lose gun haulers as battle line in
and frigates actually,
and frigates in Zilfin. Yes, correct. So 3 units in your book are no longer available as battle line. So you're stuck with Arcana Company and Engine Riggers Skywardens if you take a Engine Master with dirigible suit as your general.
Yes.
So this is also something to consider, and it will impact your list building.
Yeah. And the other thing is, when you start thinking about prosecute wars of all haste, the run and shoot in your first turn, you actually after a while end up with basically the same problem that Mhornar has. I don't know if problem is the right word because that may be a bit unfair. But you have this dilemma where it's do you take an Endrinmaster with dirigible suit or not? And in Mhornar it's a dilemma because then obviously you get a command trait you can't use, and here that means that you're not one of the benefits of taking a custom Skyport is you get a choice of all those interesting command traits, but actually the ones for the Endrinmaster with dirigible suit aren't some of the standout most interesting ones. They're okay, but
would not 100% agree with this statement.
Well, are they worth losing the things you get from a Skyport for?
The options the Endrinmaster has are definitely better than some of the taxed ones from Skyports. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. But it's
if I get him and I get to choose a command trait instead of using the Chemist Supreme or whatever the other ones are, I'm fine with that.
It's better than not having one. Is the other thing.
Yeah,
he can have +2 wounds or a Grudge Bearer, which is awesome. Turns him into a killing machine.
Yeah, it's the thing is if you take a custom Skyport, you have access to things like Collector and getting gold, which you can't do in Urbaz. And you get access to like the Admiral's command traits, which he has like 2 really good ones. I mean, he's got 3 really good ones, but one of them isn't good in a custom Skyport because it's the one that gives you an extra footnote, but the best footnote is that you're already going to be taking. So, but like Cunning Fleet Master is really good, or the one where you get a CP on a 2+ is pretty good actually. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, you end up with a dilemma is what I'm trying to say. With the run and shoot one is you go down this route of you get the same dilemma you get in Mhornar.
You get the same dilemma you get when reading this book. Often.
So, I mean, there's no point us going through all the different command traits and artifacts and stuff because, we've talked about a lot of those. So should we move on to look at some lists?
Yeah, you do that. Go ahead. Yeah. I'll be right back.
Okay. So the first one we got is yours, Carl. So you actually played this yesterday?
Yeah.
As well?
Was
that the first time you played it, or?
First time I played the custom Skyport version.
Yes.
So, I played my Iron Sky Fleet on 2 different... I played it in Zilfin, I played it in Mhornar. So here I'm playing it in the custom, which really is just changing what the navigator is holding. Usually. Or I guess in Zilfin it would be changing the navigator for a chemist. But yeah, it's pretty much the same for anyone who's seen my Iron Sky Fleet before. It's going to have 4 heroes, which is going to be the Admiral, this time with the Cunning Fleet Master, which allows me to actually do somewhat of a Zilfin move, except like Zilfin Fair, which would be not flying high. But as running is still a normal move, I have 2 CP at the start here, 3 if I go first, or no, 3 at the beginning of my turn regardless, basically. So I can go 16 inches, drop Warp Lightning Vortex within 13. So that's the 29-inch threat range. On top of the 7 inches that comes out of placing the next one, and then the 6 inches off the other end. So what I ended up doing with that, actually, I guess I'll get to the end of the list here and just explain the rest of it. Runemark. Actually, let's go back. I have these things at the top here. I didn't talk about Master Skies. Reroll 1s to hit against flying. I just feel my problem with not the grudge one. The one against heroes is, like we said, heroes reroll 1s to hit. Either heroes aren't in range or the Admiral already has it. I don't care for anyone else. Master Skies, There's a lot. The biggest enemies to KO, I feel like, are usually flying. One way or another, it's going to be a flying monster because monsters are big and scary. They move fast. Deepkin are always flying. A lot of Zinch stuff is flying. Seraphon will make something flying and throw it at you because that's what Croak does. So rerolling ones to hit is generally just really nice to have in most situations. I know it's not all the time, but I usually find at least one target.
And it's for your sky vessels, and you've got 3 sky vessels in this list,
Yeah.
so you know.
The only things that are actually doing damage, yeah. Always take what you're owed. I think this is fantastic. It's such a really good. This is an article, right? Article
Amendment.
So this is amendment. This is one of my favorite amendments in the entire book. Even in Urbaz 2, it's just like D3. Even if it's 1, that's fine, because 1 more Aether Gold on your Ironclad means 2 activations. If you're taking Rune of Mark like I am, that's 3. If you're taking a Flare Pistol, that's 4. If you have 10 points less than your opponent, which I sometimes do, that's 5, right? Like, there's so much efficiency here. I don't care if I don't get more. But so what I did yesterday was just kind of like a DPS check against Hearthguard Berserkers. I Flare Pistoled the Hearthguard and then used the reroll wounds on the Ironclad. So I had full rerolls and still had gold in order to reroll saves when they got into combat. If I had picked them as my Rune of Mark target and I killed them, then I would have another gold because the Ironclad would be the closest thing, right? It's just such a, I call it gold cycling, where you're just pumping Aether Gold through the Ironclad over and over and over again until you get a whole bunch of efficiency out of it. And you can sit right in front of the enemy and just have reroll saves for 2 or 3 phases, depending on how lucky you are. If you get the, all the gold you need and the save on the Triumph if you somehow get it. Without our ships, we are not. Once again, this is basically giving the Ironclad D3 extra wounds at any point in the game. This is all 3 of these things are just buffing an Ironclad. Everyone who goes inside is just buffing an Ironclad. So this is just make an Ironclad great again kind of list. It's been good though. So anyway, going down to the heroes, I already talked about the Admiral, why he has that command trait in the Rune of Mark. Chemist spell in the bottle is obvious for Warp Lightning Vortex. I don't use it for damage. That's not the point. Just like I said for Mhornar, this is a board control. I'm playing chess kind of list. This is not a I'm going to kill you because there's not enough damage. Flare Pistol, I'm trying it out. Like I said, the gold cycling is really good. I usually prefer Voidstone Orb just because I hate getting hit by Gemnids. It's like the worst thing when you have everybody inside of a boat, or usually I line all 3 boats next to each other and then a Gemnids just hits everybody in the army. So I usually prefer Voidstone Storm, but the Flare Pistol is really good, I will agree. Engine Master with Harness is just always a good pickup, always healing. It's good to have some healing, and then it's great melee. If you're under that 9 inches, because you can be with the Cunning Fleet Master, you can move forward and then move forward again and then shoot and then charge if you really need to, depending on who you're against. Like that. So this list, because it's a 2-drop, would just kind of crap on Sisters, like Bloodstalkers, unless they had a 1-drop list somehow. So there's 30 arcs here, just because they're kind of have to have in Iron Sky Command and Attack. The 2 that go in the Attack Squadron obviously are inside the frigates. Once again, Iron Sky Attack is fantastic because that's how you actually score points in this army. You can't always beat your enemy off, and you can't always move on to objectives in most other lists. But you can use these to score points. You can use them to body block, like have the arcs just off of a point when you move on to it, and so that it keeps them from piling onto a point. If you can keep your enemy off for 2 or 3 turns, then you can win a game usually. And then because it's Iron Sky Command, in addition, depending on how close you're standing, because 18 inches off an Ironclad is huge, you can actually have battle shock immune on all 3 of these Arcanaut company. So even if there's like 1 or 2 left, if they're keeping the enemy in combat and then they have to retreat onto an objective, or they have to retreat to fight you or something, and you're appropriately body blocking the objective, then sometimes they can't even retreat onto the point at all because the boats are huge, and you can make a wall of boats and then the arcs in front of it, and then make them so they have to pile in. One of the kind of like smart things that I do is usually remove models in such a way that the arcs will usually die to cohesion, but it'll keep things from piling in onto places you don't want them to. So it's just something to think about. 3 engine riggers are just tacks, but they also heal the 3 boats. So you can either use them to score points, you can hold objectives in the back, or you can go with the boat wherever it wants to go. And then obviously I have my 3 boats here. Ironclad with last word because we don't have a melee army, so we're not going to be taking the hook and the bram. We don't need hull plates because, like I said, I have the without our ships we're not. And I think those are the only 2 that I really care about. You could take the booster to go up to 14 inches plus 6, but I don't think it's needed because 29-inch threat range on Warp Lightning is pretty good. In fact, I didn't even go my whole 6. I didn't even use the command point to run on my game because like 13 inches is far enough. Also, the Navigator's ability allows you to reroll charges. Sorry, reroll runs. No, Ironclad has built in. Yeah. So you could just roll the dice anyway and then force it if you need to in either situation. So yeah, it's just good to have. You don't need the +2 movement in most situations. Magnificent Omniscope, you do need the movement here because 14 inches on your frigate is going to be really important for moving because you can't fly high and deploy in Iron Sky attack. And then Sky Mines, just because we're not in Urbaz and we don't have a better, because we don't need to take shoots. So yeah, I mean, I like this list a lot. Like I said, always take what you're owed is fantastic. Being able to take the flare pistol is great. Although I guess I could do most of this in Urbaz, like I was kind of saying, and then replace the Sky Mines with the what is it called? What am I blanking on?
The Breath of Morgrim.
Yeah, Breath of Morgrim. And then I really could just charge Arkanauts into an enemy, use the reroll saves, and then use the footnote in Urbaz to get the gold back, and then still have gold on them, and then not have a battle shock issue. So you could use this in Urbaz, almost the exact same list is what I'm saying. However, you would lose the without our ships we're not. So it's something to consider. Maybe sometimes that's going to be clutch. Like I've had situations where I died by 1, or I've just been 2 wounds short without being able to fly high again. So,
So I mean, there's a couple of things maybe we need to unpack on this list, which is Cunning Fleet Master. For anyone that doesn't know, what that does is that before the battle begins, so after the armies have been set up, but before the battle begins, you can make a normal move with a sky vessel. And if the sky vessel is not an ironclad, it can fly high. So essentially, that can allow you to do the same thing as Zilfin. You were doing it with your ironclad,
yes.
weren't you? So you weren't able to fly high. But so there's 2 weaknesses of that compared to Zilfin, isn't there? So one of them is it's before the battle begins, so you can give away the turn, but then there's a risk because you're not just sitting in the corner of your own deployment zone. But typically you probably want to take the first turn with this to be able to use your Warp Lightning Vortex. And then the other thing is that if it's with an ironclad, then you can't fly high with the sky vessel. So you don't have quite as big a threat range as you would in Zilfin. But the other thing the list is doing is basically combining Zilfin and Urbaz.
Yeah. Actually, it's very much what I'm doing. There's what's kind of neat though is the fact that I would compare it more to Mhornar than I would compare it to Zilfin, because Zilfin you can do it at any time, right? This you can move afterwards. So what I like about it is I wasn't able to do it yesterday because it was against Fire Slayers, but you could just go 16 inches forward and stand right in front of them and then give the op the first turn anyway, because the Ironclad is 2 Aether Gold. It can survive at least one activation against most things in the game.
And you have the last word, so you get to shoot them when they charge you.
Yeah. So I actually gave up the first turn yesterday. I don't know if I ended up saying that. And then I used the Warp Lightning Vortex in my first turn before leaving. And I kind of threw it on one side of the map just to zone. And I didn't do any damage, but it didn't matter. All I did was hit 3 groups of Hearthguard and then stop them from running. And then I hopped onto the other side. And since this was Star Strike and all 3, 2 out of 3 of the objectives landed on the side that most of his army wasn't on. And because they couldn't run, he just conceded. He was like, I can't get to you until turn 3, or turn 4, actually. Because of the way I deployed and basically made a wall with my ships, he'd have to kill me in order to get across, in order to get onto the objective. And then even behind the ships, I still had arcs that were kind of sitting there. So, I kind of got lucky with where the things got placed, but at the end of the day, it's just like if you can bait your opponent to go to the wrong side of the board, and then you Warp Lightning Vortex the ability to reposition, and then you just leave, it's going to win you a game even if you can't kill things. Like I didn't have the damage to do any. I didn't have the firepower to really do any damage, but I won on points.
So, I mean, I guess the question with this list is, because you brought it up earlier, was that you could run it in Urbaz, because Urbaz, the command trait is only for the chemist, so you can get kind of Fleet Master in Urbaz. It doesn't. You wouldn't lose any of those artifacts. What you'd lose is an engine work. So the question is this better in a custom Skyport or is it better in Urbaz?
It depends on how much you value the without our ships or not, I think.
Well, the other thing you could have is that without our ships we're not. You could have the retreat, run and shoot and charge one as well, which is potentially very useful. But
I think I would build a different list to do that in retrospect. Like when we were talking about it earlier, I was thinking, man, you really could just, like I said, put 5 Engine Masters and Admiral in. Or you could lean into Iron Sky attack and then taking 12 Riggers and then run forward. I would swap out to always take what you're owed with the Mhornar, but then still have a command trait. So you could build a Rigger Rush a Rigger Rush Mhornar list, but have a real command trait by keeping it in the custom Skyport. Would be something you could do. This one is something that you can do, but I'm just doing it because I'm making the Ironclad more durable. That's the only real advantage of taking this in a custom over Urbaz. The trade-off is I'm losing the footnote, which would allow me to use the arcs just a little bit more aggressively.
Yeah, so by going custom Skyport, you favour the Ironclad as opposed to favouring a Skyport unit, basically.
Yeah.
That's your trade-off. There is obviously other ways you could play this if you were playing, or you could do the same thing, because you don't necessarily have to do this in a double battalion list to do a similar thing where you combine Cunning Fleet Master and always take what you're owed. And again, I guess they probably come into the same question of like, is it better in Urbaz or not?
Yeah, it is a struggle.
So, Max, what do you think?
The thing with double battalion for me is always you spend a lot of points on battalions, which could be shooting.
Very
Because now
true.
you bring 30 arkanauts, but let's be honest, those 30 are not gonna kill much without rend on their weapons. If you place them well on objectives, okay, 3s and 4s. The 3 engine riggers, nice, some chip damage. And then you have an ironclad, which is your true damage dealer, and 2 frigates, which have D6 shots, so which have a better gun holder shot, like a 24-inch ranged gun holder and 4 carbines. So I think, as Kyle correctly said, this is more I'm going to play around board control style instead of I'm going to shoot you and you're dead.
Yeah.
You can do something very similar in Zilfin double battalion. You might have to lose one of the heroes, and you obviously lose one of the artifacts. So you lose the Rune of Mark and get a staff of ocular optimization. But then you can redeploy even with the ironclad, as we said earlier. Let me put it. I think it's a very clever list for playing a custom Skyport. Sorry.
Okay. So, I mean, when it highlights the issues with the custom Skyports a bit, doesn't it? That, like, so when we did the other shows, before we did the Zilfin show, it was always like, well, would this list be better in Zilfin? And when you do a custom Skyport show, the question is, would it be better in a Skyport? Is, I think, the question.
Yeah.
And that's what this list essentially highlights, that question. So it gives us a rubric to judge all of the other lists by as well.
I'd say this might be better in Urbaz because you get a better engine work for your second frigate. Better and better. you get
an equal
more use of it. I think you
equal
get the rest you can do the same.
The one thing actually that we didn't mention about this, which is a clever or a good use of the custom Skyport, is you're mostly using the gold on an ironclad, so the fact that it's losing the bravery doesn't really matter. Whereas if you're mostly planning to use the gold on a unit, then outside of Urbaz, then you're losing bravery every time you use gold. It doesn't matter so much on an ironclad unless you come up against flayers or something. A bravery-based attack. But yeah, so let's move on, I think, because we talked about this list quite a bit, to Krohn's, the Krohn Drop Mk7, I've called it. I don't know if it's Mark 7 or 6 or 9, however many versions there are of putting lots of thunderers in a boat. So this list has Settle the Grudges, which is the reroll ones against one enemy unit. Always take what you owe, so going for the extra gold for D3 units, and there's no reward without risk. I'm not entirely sure why you picked that, to be honest, but that's the one we get to reroll or charge. So he has an Engine Master with Dirigible Pursuits, the General, with Grudge Bearer Command trait, a Chemist with Emergency Vent Plates, a Navigator with Flare Pistol, 3 units of Sky Wardens, 2 of which are units of 3 with a drill cannon and a body cannon, and then 1 unit of 6 with a Sky Hook, and the rest have got Sky Pikes and Pistols. Then he's got 15 Thunderers with 2 Fumigators, the rest are rifles, 2 Gun Haulers, 1 with the collapsible compartment, and an Ironclad with the last word, and Cronstock Escort Wings. So it is 4 drops. And he's basically using the gun hauler to move the heroes around so that he can have 15 Thunderers in the Ironclad.
Yes. What's interesting here is he chose the Grundstock Escort Wing, rerolling 1s to hit, but he's doubling up with Settled Grudges, which is you pick one enemy unit and reroll 1 to hit.
And then also Flare Pistol, which is reroll all failed hits.
Yes, so it's a lot of rerolling 1s or hits against potentially the same unit. Not sure that there's no reward without risk and reroll a charge. The only thing he's going to use it on is the 6 Sky Wardens, but I don't know. Is that worth it? Because those 6 Sky Pike attacks in not zone, so 4s and 3s, 1 Ren, D3 damage. I don't know if they need an 8 to charge if they flew high. I'm not sure if they're gonna swing the away.
The only thing he's getting out of this is that you can take compartments instead of but honestly, you really could just drop 1 Thunder model and have 14 and hop them into the Ironclad.
No, you'd have to drop 2 because you've got the Navigator and the Chemist.
The Navigator does not really have to go with.
You cannot go under strength in battalion units.
Oh yeah, and that.
It doesn't work.
So what this list allows him to do that you can't do in Urbaz is it allows him to have the last word and compartments in essentially an Urbaz list. Because you wouldn't be able to have both. Which that then allows him to have the 15 Thunderers.
But the Thunderers, they bring 2 Fumigators, so I guess he wants to deploy them somewhere. But he will not deploy them before the 2nd round. Because he doesn't have a hero phase disembark or a hero phase move and then movement phase disembark.
Yeah. Well, I think the plan would be the first turn to shoot stuff at range, and then 2nd or 3rd turn get them out to hold a point.
So then you're gonna get use out of the Fumigators for 2 rounds, maybe. At that point, most of the threats should be dead and not charging your Thunderers.
Yeah, actually, so one of the major things I see being an issue is you lose out on making the gun haulers battle line, which that role is big. And then the Thunderers themselves, if you're in Urbaz, become targets for the footnote in Urbaz, which gives them extra gold, which you would really want to do in this situation where it's like, okay, hopefully on a D3 you get 2. Those 2 are going to go to the Thunderers and the Ironclad. So you use 1 at some point to reroll wounds. You're going to have 1 extra. You get into combat, you're going to reroll saves. And then after the combat, you get to use the footnote to activate again to get more gold and then give them the Thunderers to reroll something next turn, right? Like that's usually what I would do in such a situation. The problem here is that you have -3 bravery -2 bravery if you start gold cycling on those the Thunderers, which would be kind of awkward.
Yeah, because they're 2 wound models, so once they start running away, the thing about this list is if you took it in Urbaz, you would have to you would end up taking the buoyancy aid, wouldn't you? In which case, or you'd have to drop the Thunderers down to 10. You'd probably end up taking the buoyancy aid, which means you'd want to put the Thunderers up to 20, and you'd then, because Thunderers cost more than Sky Wardens, you'd basically end up losing both of them, or not have an Engine Master which will suit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I follow you. That might be my issue with it. No, but I mean that's fair. You could do this. You could do this on its own, and it is worth something to be able to move the Chemist and the Navigator, I guess, and the Gun Hauler. Or
especially
you could
since the chemist has the vent plates, so you can put that the gun holder right next to the ironclad, and it's
-1 to hit, and then the 6 up feel no pain. It's not bad. When you're trying to shoot the ironclad or something, it's not bad. -2 to hit any of the people inside. -3 to hit a hero.
But in Urbaz, you could put the chemist inside the ironclad with vent plates.
Yeah.
So, and you could still get the flare pistol. So it would just be a case of downgrading their Ender Master with dirigible suit, most likely. So you can have 20 thunders.
If you put the chemist in the ironclad, then you can't fly high.
No, because you'd have the buoyancy aid.
He's saying to drop last word, which I don't know if it's worth it.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you go 60 models, so one model and makes you change the engine work. And that's the reason why I dislike 15 ground stock thunders. I always go for 20 because then at least it's worth it.
Yeah, that's basically what this list is doing, is allowing you to not have the buoyancy aid,
but just with 15
and still have all the gold.
Yeah, that's fair. I can get behind that. That's a worthy trade almost, because losing the gold on the Thunders an additional time is kind of a huge issue for me because I love it. But last word is really good.
Yeah, but then I don't get the reroll charge.
No, I don't get it at all.
But no. Then why not? Because he doesn't have the Iron Sky. Why not Battle Shock? Or why not?
He really should just have the without our ships. We are not.
Yeah, because I think I would drop the fumigators. Like, if you weren't going to do an Urbaz version of this list, and you were going to go with the custom, I think if it was me, I would go with without our ships we are not, and I would drop the fumigators, and I would literally always be flying high with the ironclad and keeping the thunderers inside. Because you always want people to then be like to have a reason to charge the ironclad and get shot, and having the extra, because people are always going to be trying to charge your ironclad, and you're basically keeping the thunderers alive, behind the ironclad. Like, people go, they when they charge the ironclad, they can attack your thunderers, but they're -1 to hit, or they can attack the ironclad, but you've got the extra healing on it then, and you can gold cycle on the ironclad. And because the thunderers are inside the ship and therefore probably not going to take quite so much damage, the bravery is not going to be so much of an issue on them.
I probably would have taken some riggers then, if that was the plan. Maybe swap the 3 sky. Well, actually, no. You need wardens for escort wing. So this is actually a reduced drop. That's pretty good. So this is a 3 drop, 4 drop.
Yeah, it's 4 drop. Yeah.
Okay, so I can see that. But yeah, you really could just kind of like wall up and then just keep backing up and then healing 4 wounds a turn.
The way I would play it is the ironclad would be going around to different parts of the board, and after stuff had charged the ironclad, and got shot, and therefore damaged, then you'd use your Sky Wardens to finish them off in the next game, while the ironclad is taken out, your next target.
I would take I would still take the shotguns and the cannons, because it sounds like you'd be at 12 inches. If you're just going to keep hopping backwards, you might as well maximize the firepower. And then accept the fact you're going to be charged, and just have 3 gold that you're using. Or sorry, no, 2 gold in this situation. 2 gold to just reroll saves in 2 different phases. You could do that for 2 turns.
Yep. Any thoughts, Max?
No, I don't think there's much more depth to this than what we divine. It's a bit unfortunate that the Krohn hasn't dropped yet and appeared to explain his thoughts. But I think we kind of got the idea.
I have a feeling Krohn was up all night translating leaks of the Daughters of Khaine book, and is now dreaming of snake ladies.
Probably. See that.
So let's move on to your list, Max. Do you want to take us through it?
Okay, so I've went also for Settle the Grudges. So choose one unit, reroll ones to hit for everyone. Then we get the extra gold. Always take what you're owed, because I think that's a good deal to get extra gold. And then we have the there's no trading with some people, which is the retreat and or run and or shoot and charge. What we have an Iron Sky command with inside the 10 arkanauts, 2 units of engine riggers, 6 and 12, each with 1 skyhook. The rest is melee loadout. We have an ironclad with a skyhook and a battle ram. And then we have a navigator with a voidstone orb, just in case you need to dispel some Soul Seeker, Elder Spell, or Vortex for Croak, or some of those Geminids, which could really make a difference if you stop that for 1 turn. As the other 2 heroes, we have the Chemist as our general with a collector trait, so we get an extra artifact. He has Spell in a Bottle, which is bound chromatic cogs, so giving us 2+ move, 2+ charge. And we have another Endrin Master with Endrin Harness. I gave him the Cog Monculus just because there is no other good artifact for him to be given. And I needed a 3rd hero, and he can heal the Ironclad.
I wish that he did mortals on the charge while in the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the shot gauntlets would be good, but if the Ironclad charges, he doesn't count as having charged, so unfortunately not. That would be a great combo. And then to fill out our battle line, we have 2 more units of 10 arkanauts. All the arkanauts have their fancy weapons, and we have another Gruntstock Gunhauler with Sky Cannon and Spark Torpedo. So this is a 4-drop list, 1970 points, or a good shot at getting a triumph.
Mm-hmm. So potentially D3 +1 A for gold, effectively.
Yes, exactly.
Don't actually get A for gold. You get
although the nice thing why I like to be low points 1970, 1980 is because you can use triumph and gold in the same phase, so you can double down.
So depending what you get, it's like getting a free flare pistol or a free A for gold.
It's more of a I can reroll hits with this unit and then still reroll saves with another in the same combat phase or something like that, which is which I like.
Yeah.
So what we do, this is a bit the charge and hit route I'm currently playing with the Bargzon list. I really like the combination of chromatic cogs with the Ironclad, Skyhook, and the Battle Ram, so that's already +4 charge. Doing your mortals when you charge in the Ironclad. Inside them we have an Endrin Master who can swing a bit at whatever is not dead, and the Cogmunculus. I actually need to check what that even does.
Is that 3 shots or the extra range?
He can reroll 1 hit or wound roll.
Oh.
Or 1 save roll once per phase. So he can, if you have a chance, it's another chance of getting that 6 for the free mortal wounds.
Which one is the one that gives him +2 attacks? Oh, from the shooting? Is that the hand trade?
That is the Ether Quartz monolens that extends the range, and you are thinking about the trait.
Okay, wait. So the trait is the one that gives you +2 attacks?
Yes.
Okay.
That makes him like a torpedo launcher.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically what we do is we try to charge people. Because what I found playing Zon is there's really big play in dealing mortal wounds in the charge phase. So all those high save, rend, ignore units, all those after save units, and well, they still apply, but you just jump the save they get to do before it. You can really kill stuff with this. The 2 units of engine riggers, same. The 12 man, they'll have to move forward, but they move 14 if you use the cogs and then charge with a +3. The 6 engine riggers, they can hitch a ride, and they get a +3, and they just need a 6 to get in combat if they deployed or set up 9 inches away. The ironclad needs a 5 to charge something. And there are these moments where you can just roll a 10, roll a 12, +4, 16. So that's 8, 9, 10 mortal wounds. I recently dealt 13 mortal wounds to a Bastiladon, charging him first turn. I mean, that's like the look on your opponent's face is just priceless when you boom. Okay, now I'm going to drop bombs. And now this guy inside is going to hit you with his hammer.
Yeah. Yep, that's good.
You can
I like it
reroll
a
the
lot.
charge with the navigator for the boats, so that's a bit of safety. Even if you only get a 6, you might want to reroll to get more mortals out of the battle ram. And then the arkanauts, they're just doing their thing. 10 can go inside the ironclad, the other 10 are just sitting on your backfield objectives and scoring you the points throughout the entire game. Because you're just jumping around, throwing in engine riggers in the middle, and the 2 boats jumping around, shooting, charging, dropping bombs. Basically, that's the idea. Coming to the main question of the show, is this meta in a different Skyport? Yes. You get less gold, but on if you take Skywarns instead of the engine riggers, the 12, they do significantly more damage on the charge because they get +1 to hit, +1 to wound. Now you're 3s and 2s, 1 rend, but D3 damage, and they get 2 attacks each. So that's 23 attacks instead of just the 12 attacks. I like the retreat and charge. So if your boat gets stuck in somewhere, it's not dead. You get a double turn. Okay, let's back up and let's try again to park into this parking spot. Go back in. I think the Black Coach can do something similar, like remove and then charge again. Or you wanna, okay, I'm stuck in now here with these 20 Chaos Warriors. I want to go somewhere else. Retreat, shoot someone else, or shoot them and then turn somewhere else.
Can we not disengage and shoot and charge? No, we can't. Can we?
No, disengage. We can shoot, but we cannot charge.
Okay.
So that's the and I think the once per battle doesn't bother me that much, because if you've done that twice, then mostly that you're at the point where the game's over anyway. Or you've done it, your thing. Now you're doing it again. You're round 4 now, so it's not as important.
You've got a couple of different things you can use that on as well, because you could use it on the 12 engine riggers. I mean, they've already got 14-inch move, and then +3 to charge.
Yeah. So the good thing is you could have them further back, actually, right?
Or you can get across the screen to what's behind them.
Yeah.
You run them, shoot them at the screen, and then charge whatever is behind. So you're going with a command point 6. You're going 20. So you're 4 inches away in some deployments of the screen. You shoot the screen, and then you get a +3. So on average, a 10 charge. So you're going 30 inches. You're almost at the end of the map.
Yeah. There's also the psychological effect. Like there's 2 things about this list. One is it can catch a lot of people with their pants down because they won't necessarily expect this from KO.
Definitely. Playing on people, they're like, because you start putting down your Iron Sky command. Okay, in this case, not because the 12 engine riggers are also in the command, but you put everything, you're the gun hauler in the corner. 6 engine riggers with him in the corner. You're gonna, what's your threat range? Yeah, I'm gonna deploy back here. Everything that can fly high and hitch can be 9 inches in front of him and still alpha. It's just the 12 engine riggers that you need to probably deploy on the front somewhere. Or you put everything in the back, say, it's 4 drops, you start, and I'll run into you. And they don't expect this. And this is great. I played today with the zone list against Isonef, 2+ unrendable eels. Just rammed him. Eidolon with he's on a 3+, then a 2+. I don't know minus how much to hit. Oh, I can't shoot at you, or because of the artifact they have, I can't attack you. I'll just run my boat over you. You can't stop that. The bombs ability, you can't stop that. So big fun. I think it's the way to play KO in a meta with these things that are either can't be shot at or have high saves, high minuses to be hit. Because your ending riggers are good in combat, 12 of them, with extra gold. So reroll hits and then still have the reroll saves to last a round of combat. And you just run stuff over with your boats. Yeah. Even the gun holder. I mean, he can move 18 once per game. Now he's moving 20 once per game, and then gets a +2 charge. He's gonna get that little hero with his torpedo and hopefully do like 4 or 5 mortal wounds and plus the bombs. You know, he's going places. Yep. I mean, it's not a super sophisticated idea. It's a zone list in custom Skyport.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of ways you can play it, because you come across 2 different types of opponent, really. One that won't ask you any questions about your list, and then they'll be completely caught by surprise. And the other person that will ask you every single question, and they will. So you'll tell them all about how you could potentially make those 12 ending riggers run and shoot and charge, and they have +2 move and +3 to charge, and so of course they react to that and deploy everything further back, which you can use to your advantage as well.
And then you just move a little bit forward, score objectives, and say, yeah, sure, now come out of your corner.
Yeah, because the other thing is you're basically, you can throw everything at the enemy wherever you want on the board, almost. And then you've got the arkanauts that can sit in your deployment zone and hold.
That's a nice difference to the zone list where I only have 10 arkanauts. Here you have 30, so you can zone out your backfield if he has a deep striking or teleporting, and you can safely guard two objectives with 10 arkanauts with gold. Maybe the chemist is there as well. And the next rounds, when you're in combat, you've done all your charges. Chemist switches the cogs to slowdown time. Now he's rerunning saves. He has his -1 to be hit. He can defend an objective for a round or 2 with 10 arkanauts.
The other thing is about the +2 move is it's actually enough for the hero to run onto the side objectives on places of arcane power. I think.
The top one.
Yeah, you can definitely
the lower one, I'm not sure.
Yeah, oh yeah, the top one, because they're different difference.
The middle one, yes.
Yeah.
But the top one you can't get on with a 6-inch move without cogs, because it's 11 inches away, I think, or like 10 and a half inches away. And your normal maximum movement is 10 with a run. And when I say it's 11 inches away, I mean the outer edge of it. It's a diameter, not the center of the thingy. My question about this list is, because you compared it to Zon, and I understand why you've done that, but I think just because we haven't seen people taking cogs or bound cogs outside of Zon much, but it's something I've been thinking about doing in other lists, and I think there is playing. What you've essentially done, I think, is you compared it to Zon, but you built an Urbaz list with cogs.
Yes, less one unit of arkanauts.
So
more engine riggers.
Because one of the things you've done is you wouldn't be able to have collector in Urbaz, so you'd lose Cogmonculus, but we're not worried about Cogmonculus.
Not specifically, no.
So what you would lose is the Spar Torpedo.
And that hurts.
But
because it's nice. I put it on every gun holder. It's just such a surprise. I'm going to move 18 and charge you here, boom, dead.
So
Today, that
Yeah.
Gunhunter just like on his own killed 3 guards, eels, like through charging bombs and then a little bit of combat and shooting.
So, I mean, if you're going to compare it as well, because you would lose this, which is really powerful.
It's powerful, but it's a once per game, and you compared to Zon, what you also lose, which I very much like, is having the Enver Master with the Aether's Bed Hammer, which is +2
Plus 2
attack.
attacks is huge.
And 5
I agree.
attacks. 6 is doing 3 mortals.
Mm.
Rerolling ones against heroes and monsters in Zon. I mean, here we can use Settle of the Grudges for that, or a command point, or a gold to reroll all hits, which means also not just failed, but you can roll everything if you're fishing for 6s. I used that today. That guy just did 9 mortal wounds on eels. Boom, hammer in the head, 3 6s. There you go. Nothing they can do. All the rend, ignore, or saves. It's that's something I might miss. But other than that, yeah. And obviously the Bearer of the Iron Star is another thing where you can just throw a hero somewhere, and if he dies, he's still there on a 2+.
So,
but yeah, 1970 is good trade-off for Triumph.
So, on balance, do you think this is better than if you played Zon?
I think I get more out of Zon because these 12 Skywarn do more damage compared to 12 Engine Riggers.
Mm-hmm.
This is slightly more survivable, which actually I appreciate a lot. Slightly more range too.
What if the Engine Riggers were, using their gold share? Or using a gold share because you don't get...
Yes, if you get a Triumph, maybe a hit or a... Because you're going to buff them with a Chemist, rerolling 1s to wound already.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting and combat.
So their swords and pistols could be rerolling all failed. Their swords could be rerolling all failed.
And you could use a Triumph that you get if it's hits, or the saves, or use a gold instead.
Yeah,
and
if you
still
roll
have a gold for the next round. Yeah, the extra gold is if you get 2 goals, put 1 on the Ironclad, put 1 on 12 Engine Riggers. Depending what Triumph you rolled for. Yeah, that could be sweet. I'll have to try it, but I think I'll still stick with Zon, just because Zon is a 3 drop and this is a 4 drop.
Mm-hmm.
And I very much value deciding who starts.
Yeah.
Because this is an alpha impact list. It's not an alpha shoot. It is some shooting, alpha shooting. It is alpha combat. It's alpha everything. I play in 3 phases alpha list.
And
I want to decide: will I go first and take out your important things so your list doesn't work anymore, or am I going to sit back, wait, and then do my double potentially double thing? Yep.
I like the list. Actually, this is probably my favorite custom list. The only thing that I would change is I would drop 2 saws, 1 for each rigger for grapnel hook, just because I really, 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 really like stopping someone from retreating. If you're going to make this commitment, right? You're going to be on the objectives. If they have to, you could tap something like you destroy whatever it is you charged into, right? If there's a second unit that's right there, and you had your grapnel within 3 inches, but outside of outside of actually touching them, then that one model has to pile in 3 inches. One model is going to hit you, but it's not going to kill your unit, right? But now that whole unit that's connected to can't retreat.
It's stuck. Yeah. I've never really used grapnel launchers. I don't have people retreating from me much. I see that they're more valuable on big units than on MSU units, because the MSU unit, if you put them in combat, and it's just going to die. It's 6 wounds on a 4+. If they have rend 5+, it's 3 Engine Riggers die quickly.
But these 2
I don't know.
Both going to be more survivable.
The thing is, because it's an entire sword attack.
Yeah. But it's also...
Swords are very spiky in their output. It's 3s and 2s, but you're going to roll a lot of 2s Trust me to it. And then you already lose a lot of output.
Yeah,
where Sky won't have 2 attacks, so it's not as bad.
You don't have the numbers of dice, so you don't
Exactly.
you don't actually approach your average very often.
I might consider it on the 6 engine riggers. I thought about in my zone list to put special weapons, all special weapons on 6 engine riggers, because they often fail to charge or they're just sitting somewhere. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe, but I think I still tend to play zone with this kind of charge, shoot, charge, and fight damage list, and then be battle shock immune from the Ironclad battalion, the Iron Sky Command, which is great for the 12 block. Because if they lose 3 or 4s, then they spent their gold, they're -1. Maybe they got 2 golds in this list. They spent 2, they got -2 because they don't have that Urbaz ability. Yeah. They're going to start running. Yeah, but I think that's you could discuss the Voidstone Orb, maybe. Maybe if you play against a lot of flyers, you might want to use the ability that his Ether Storm triggers on a 2 instead of a 3. You get a +1 on that roll. I think, or is that a trait? Am I confusing this with the... No, that's the Cyclonic Ether Meter, or you can get Flare Pistols. I mean, always a solid choice. It's dependable what you do. Or what your meta is. Is it all Bloodthirsters? Okay, then maybe you want to stop 1 from flying, or... But I guess this list could probably kill 3 or 4 Bloodthirsters in 1 round.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things in this list that you could switch out based on meta. Like, you could switch the Navigator to a 2nd Chemist and put vent plates in if you were coming up against a huge amount of shooting.
Yes.
You'd obviously then lose your reroll charges on the ship.
But you'll have 1 or 2 command points. Basically, that's what you use them for. You either use them to reroll ones to shoot on the Ironclad, but we have that from Settle the Grudges. So then, use it for reroll charges.
It's a nice thing about Iron Sky Commands. It gives you options on those heroes. So, equally, depending on your meta, you could take out the Endra Master and have vent plates and Voidstone Orb.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a source of healing, D3, which is nice for the Ironclad, but once you charged someone, bombed him, attacked him with 10 Arkanauts from the inside, the Ironclad with 1 or 2 golds is going to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you could chop and change. You could have 2 Navigators if you wanted to have Flare Pistol and Voidstone Orb.
Yes, you could.
But, that's less a meta pick and more of a...
season to taste, whatever, or what mod you like.
Okay. What I like about this is it's nice and aggressive.
It is. And that's something... When people... I mean, we've seen KO, we've featured KO a lot on this channel, tournament winners, but you often find people, you ask them, have you ever played against KO? I played him once in the old book. Or, no. They're not as common here. Even in this tournament I'm participating tomorrow, I'm the only one among 30 people. And it's... So people don't really know. And what they know is, you can do that Warp Lightning thing and, move and move again. Like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm doing something completely different. I'm going to charge you and boom, boom, boom.
I saw someone on Facebook today talking about KO, and they were saying about how they can get all these pluses to hit. Don't know where they got that from.
Yes, and Tempest Knight.
Maybe.
But you need to keep your Hurricanum alive. But that's another show. Tune in.
Yes. Let's move on to... this is from my list.
I love the name. Maya just say this.
But the reason this list is called Admiral's Folly is because I spent a huge amount of time trying to come up with the perfect list. And of course, what happens when you try to come up with the perfect list is there's no such thing as a perfect list, is there? So I was really trying to find something that
is unique.
that you couldn't say, well, that could be better in X Skyport or whatever. And I went through a lot of versions of different lists, and what I ended up refining it to is something without a battalion. So let's go through the list. It's Settle the Grudges, which I picked because you can always control that. You can always get use out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Always take what you're owed, because extra gold shares, always useful. And there's no trading with some people because you can always use that. So basically, I've ended up going for things in this list that are not situationally specific, because what I was working out was, if you go down the route of having lots of artifacts of power, then a lot of the artifacts of power available to you are situationally good. Just like we were talking about with your list, how you could swap, vent plates in if you wanted to, or you can have void stone, or it depends on your meta. Whereas this is something that I end up basically refining into, well, these are the things that I can always use and always make use of. And flare pistol is also one of them. Like, I don't have flare pistol on this list, but I ended up working out that I couldn't get it in because the free artifacts basically that you can always use and are really strong are flare pistol, spell in a bottle, and rune of mark. And I basically couldn't squeeze it in and then get the other things into the list that I wanted. So I ended up finding that flare pistol was, the thing that had to go, unfortunately. So the list is a chemist who is the general with collector command trait and spell in a bottle, an admiral with rune of mark, and then a second chemist. Then there's 3 units of arkanauts because you need them for battle line because the chemist is the general. 12 engine riggers that have got all the shooty guns, basically. 6 engine riggers, 1 with a skyhook, and then 5 swords and pistols. 10 Grunstock thunderers with 1 fumigator, which is sort of optional, but I quite like having that in there as a tool. And the rest are rifles. And ironclad with the skyhook and the battle ram, and then bound chronomatic golds. So it's a high drop list. It's 1980 points. But everything there's nothing wasted in this list. It's essentially because what I kept working out to try and get this perfect list was I was adding things. You add a battalion, you get an extra engine work, and you get an extra artifact. And I ended up, there was always an issue where there was something wasted. So I ended up building a list where you haven't wasted anything. So I haven't wasted the ironclad's capacity because you can put the 10 thunderers inside. And then even though it's high drop, everything can essentially deploy very safely because, the 12 engine riggers have got 36-inch threat range. If you really need it, you can use the run and shoot to give them further, but 36 is enough, really. If you can't hit something with 36-inch threat range, then I don't know, don't know what you're trying to shoot, but and bound chronomatic cogs, because like Max, I've just fallen in love with that combination with the skyhook and the battle ram. And it's not so much about getting the getting a higher charge roll to get more mortal wounds. It's more about just guaranteeing the charge roll, so you don't fail. Oh, there's a cat. And the way the list plays is you are going to cycle gold because you've got to always take what you're owed. You've got extra gold. You've got an admiral to give battles for community because you're going to be, decreasing the amount of bravery you have because you're going to be using gold on your 12 engine riggers as well as the ironclad potentially, depending on what you roll. And your engine riggers are going to, sit back and keep shooting with reroll hits. So hopefully also getting the extra, the mortal wounds from the drill cannons. And then once you get to late game, the idea is you will use there's no trading with some people, either on them or the Ironclad, depending on whether the Ironclad needs it because it's taken damage. Because you've got some healing with the engine riggers, but you haven't got like an engine master or anything. So if you need to fly high and you can't because you haven't healed enough, then use it on the Ironclad. But if not, you can use the engine riggers because you can then move them 18 inches. They still got 4 saw attacks, then they're 5 saw attacks once you factor in the leader. And they're going to be charging something they probably already shot at as well. So they're it's a late game play to get an objective. It's almost like a no frills list because it's you're not spending points on a battalion, you're just getting a lot of stuff.
Sorry, why is there a second chemist instead of a navigator though?
That is so that you can buff both engine rigger units, or you can either buff both engine rigger units first turn, or you can buff your 12 engine riggers and your thunderers first turn.
Yeah, buff the thunderers, then put them in the ship. Yeah,
and the thunderers at some point can also get out with the chemist as well. So one chemist is going to basically babysit the 12 engine riggers to keep giving them.
But how is he going to keep up?
It's not moving
because they're shooting. So they're 24-inch shooting guys, so they don't, they're going to be keeping away from their opponent as much as they can, effectively.
Okay.
If you really need to spend a command point on making him run, or you just...
you could do something similar with Urbaz giving the Supreme Chemist and buff both units with one chemist, at least in the first turn, before you send off the Thunderers.
Yeah. The second chemist also has
you need a
thing where you get the Thunderers out and then the -2 to hit. So you're even making use of the Fumigator and the... Because, they won't get out turn 1, but turn 2 after they get out before you charge something. So turn 1, you'll charge onto an objective, kill something. Turn 2, your Thunderers will get out with a chemist, hold that point where your Ironclad then goes off and charges something else. I mean, do you have any other questions about the list, or?
I think you really should have cannons on the Thunderers.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't sound like if you're really you have a Skyhook and a battle ram, you're going to be dropping 9 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
The efficiency, is always going to be better if you're re-rolling 1s to wound on the first turn. Then you're hitting on 3s and 2s. It's going to hit the same. It's going to have more rend. It's going to do more damage than 2-shot rifle shots. So you should always have cannons always beat rifles at range. I think the shotguns, the deck sweepers also are just better rifles. Like flat out, they're 3 shots instead of 2. Same stats. If you're using this, you're going to be in range. You might not be in range for 2 fumigators, so I can see that. You might as well take the mortar just in case you die, though. So yeah, I could. The only thing I would change here is making the Thunders into you're that close, you might as well. Otherwise, this is a really good list. Actually, I kind of wish I'd taken this one or Max's. This one would be more fun. Well, no, actually, Max's is really fun.
Max's is probably the more fun one because it's just like all-out attack, which is very fun.
But this would be...
but this has staying power of the Thunderers, Fumigator, and Chemist on each end.
It's a shooting list that gets to choose when it wants to go. So you're not forced into going first, like in Max's you might need to. This one...
this one is... The thing here is the cogs are basically only threat range increment.
Well, they help. They
help the Ironclad and 6 engine riggers. That's all they help. Whereas in my list, they also help the gunholder and they help the 12 engine riggers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
but I like the idea that you're playing for more than 3 turns. Which is,
that's not how KO works, is it?
Yeah.
Isn't it Legion's ability? Play 3 rounds and either win or don't have an army.
Yeah, that's how I usually play, right? But this one,
although lately I often go to round 5. Yeah.
Yeah,
that mythical being round 5 where you have like one unit and your opponent has 2 units and you're just trying to jump on. Don't even fight anymore. Like, no, I need to jump over here and maybe over there, and you do the maths in your head where who can scramble some points and maybe we'll get a draw, but if I get a double, then maybe here. And yeah.
I really like both of these, honestly.
Yeah. So, I mean, and the part of the reason why it's called Admiral's Folley is because, and I mentioned wanting to put the flare pistol on this list originally, but then I also wanted 2 chemists, and then like having the flare pistol with those 12 shooty engine riggers is
just spend a gold. You get extra gold.
Yeah, well, it was the idea was getting multiple turns out of them. So you get, give them a gold share. They get a gold share they start with, and then they get a third turn, with the flare pistol, probably in the opposite order.
Because you give him the gold because the Ironclad is going to get extra gold from the Rune of Mark.
Yes.
And
the Thunderers.
First round you shoot whatever is reroll 1s to hit, and reroll 1s to wound. Next round you spend a gold to reroll all hits, still rerolling 1s to wound. So for 2 rounds already you're rerolling stuff with those 12 engine riggers.
Yeah. Oh, that was actually the other thing. Was about the Thunderers, which Carl brought up about the weapons. Is potentially first turn you can use them to shoot the unit that's got reroll 1s on it, and then use their gold to reroll wounds. So you're 3+ rerolling 1s, 4+ rerolling all wounds. It's the rerolling all wounds. It's not necessarily like that amazing. Like, it doesn't give us bigger buff on the special weapons, at least not the cannons. It gives you that threat range beyond the screen if you need to.
Yeah.
Because depending where you deploy your 12 engine riggers, they go, right, well, they've got 36-inch threat range, and I'll deploy...
Or 38 even, with the cogs.
Yeah. So
if you need to shoot past the screen, you could just go 18 inches with the Ironclad if you use there's no trading with some people.
So,
you have a lot of options here.
Yeah.
You don't need to have the 18-inch range. Like, the 6 inches is not going to make...
The Thunderers weapons, I think, is something that would... There's actually been an interesting discussion about this with the Slaanesh book, with people saying, well... we need to sit on the table, and others saying, well, no, you can work it out. There are some things, and I think something like the weapon option on the Thunderers is going to come down to experience with playing the list, and what works for you, and how your opponents deploy against you and stuff, and whether you think that extra range is useful or not. It might be that you don't need it, and then the extra efficiency is better. I mean, especially if the plan is to get them out of the boat as well, then having the special weapons kind of makes some sense. So, because they're going to get an extra gold share as well after you use a really mark.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to get one. They get one. I don't know. But the question is, do you guys think this would be better in any Skyport? Guess you compare it to Earthas?
No, then you'd lose the battle ram.
I think this is it. I think
this is it.
You've done it. Is it better than Max's? I don't know, but I think you've actually managed to make one. Like, I would sign off on this, that this is something you couldn't do.
Yes, this is something you can't do in another Skyport, but is it better than Earth? Well, that's not fair, because then you just compare.
We don't know, but we know there's only one list in KO anyway, so.
Yeah.
As Gary said.
Move on, because we're at 2 hours. We've got one more list.
Do we have one more? Okay.
We have one more, because every single list we've had so far has had that.
Because gold is awesome.
Yes, gold is awesome. But the standout abilities are is that and Prosecute Wars of Warhaze. They're the 2 standout ones that you get to choose from, aren't they? So I thought we needed to have a list. And so therefore the question was, how do you write a list that uses run and shoot that's better than Mhornar? And the answer
More-
is 70
Mhornar
Arkanauts.
than Mhornar.
Yes, this is Mhornar than the Mhornar.
Run and gun.
1990 points. So you get
Hang
settled
on.
gradually.
So you don't have enough. You don't have enough. You need to drop something in order to get the command points to force runs. Runs to 6. I don't know if these arcs are going to make it in the range.
Well, so the idea of this list is that you make your opponent go first. So there was a previous version of this list that had gyrocopters, but that forced it to 4 drops. So
3 drop. Okay.
This is 3 drops. So you really need to make your opponent go first. And therefore you really need to make sure they can't just kill you, which is partly... So you have a navigator, first of all, with the Diviner command trait. And if you're not sure what that does, the Diviner command trait lets you pick either an objective or a terrain piece on the table, and then units wholly within 12 of that are battle shock immune. And it doesn't matter if the navigator is alive or not. So even if they kill your navigator, you still get your battle shock immunity. You have chemist is spell in the bottle, and then another chemist, because chemists are awesome. And I've got lots of chemists from when I used to play the old book. Then you have 3 units of arkanauts, 2 units of 30, and then 1 unit of 10 with all the guns, 12 endriggers with all the guns, an ironclad with the battle ram, Iron Sky Command, and chronomatic cogs. So chronomatic cogs does 2 things. We talked about the Skyhook and battle ram combo of cogs, and then it also helps with the run and shoot in the first turn. So your arkanauts have 10, 12, a 12-inch move potentially in the first turn, and then 9-inch shooting with the pistols longer than that. So you basically need your opponent to come forwards towards you, and then you counter attack and go, haha, you didn't realize these arkanauts are actually good, did you? And in theory, you will deploy them so that they're both in range of a objective or command or terrain piece, so that they will both be battle shock immune from the command trait, and that when they move forwards, they'll still be in range of it, to keep being battle shock immune. Chemist is for each unit of arkanauts, or one chemist, can sit with 1 unit between both units of arkanauts, and then the other one can sit with the endriggers. So you're getting reroll 1s to wound on the units that need it. And it's basically a gun line with an ironclad as a distraction.
You know what you could do? I like the distraction ironclad, actually. That's really good. Now, the problem with arcs is that they really need to be on an objective to get that +1 to hit. You could just not. You could flare pistol, you're right. So that's okay, you can hit on 4s. One thing you really could do is actually take the sky cannon with the last word, place the arcs so that they make a wall. Ironclad goes in the center. Engine riggers are behind it. And so if they hit the ironclad, then you can heal with the 12 4-ups. If they hit the arcs, it's like, whatever, go ahead. I have 4-up rerolls to save. And so you could just make a wall of bodies. But the distraction ironclad is probably better, but it's also not as durable because you don't have anything that can go with it to heal it.
No. The ironclad will have to pick around the edges. When someone deploys all their stuff in one place, and then you'll see they put, people put like a token battle line unit on a flank sometimes. It's going to go around for those. It's going to act as a distraction. So people are like, well, do I go over there towards the ironclad? Do I go towards these bodies? You're making them go first, so hopefully they'll open up space for the ironclad as well. And you need something that's going to be able to get you objectives as well, because depending on the battle plan, you'll move on to the objectives with your arkanauts, but they can't necessarily get to the ones on the opposite side of the table. The other thing is there's no trading with some people. In this list has 4 targets it can potentially be used on. So if your ironclad gets hurt and can't fly high, it can be used on that. If you need to really get really far and taking objectives that actually doesn't have much on it in terms of bodies, you can use your 12 riggers, to go take an objective. Or actually, with run and shoot and charge and +2 to move, the arkanauts can actually move surprisingly far. Like, people don't expect it from a 4-inch move unit. They will move 12 inches and then charge. And
That's true.
They won't do much, but there's 30 bodies that will get.
Yeah, you get bodies onto an objective. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
like all of these lists.
I
These are
still
all
don't know
really fun.
if cogs in this list is worth it, because that's 90 points for bound cogs, and the most use is getting for the ironclad is getting most use out of it.
I think it's getting a lot of use. I mean, +4 to charge.
+2.
It's giving you +2 move. It's giving you +2 range on all your arkanauts as well, though. So what this does, because the rubric for this list is judge it against Mhornar. So what does this do that Mhornar can't do? So first of all, it has a flare pistol, which you can't do in Mhornar. It has, which also 60 arkanauts, 120 shots, re-rolling all failed hits, and they're potentially already hitting on freeze.
Even 70 arkanauts.
Yeah, but the 10 are going to be off somewhere. No, probably actually the 10 normally go inside the ironclad. Probably in this list, or they go off.
Still 60 if you get them close to objectives. 120 shots.
120 shots hitting on freeze,
and fours.
Re-rolling all failed hits, and then 4s no rend.
One is re-rolling. No, 2 could be re-rolling.
One of them will be re-rolling. Yes, that's why you have 2 chemists, because one chemist is with the riggers. And I'm actually pointing.
Yeah, I mean, depends who you
what I'm pointing at.
Use your mouse. Remember,
depends. So this is a list where you could say, well, for example, Archeon. Yeah, Archeon, come forward.
One chemist will buff them. One chemist will buff them.
This is a free drop. Yeah.
Drop one of those chemists for an engine master and just put it in the boat. Like you don't need to buff the arcs. You're the ones to.
Well, why not?
Yeah. And then the second turn,
number of dice.
Turn 2, you do it the opposite way around. So turn 2, the opposite one uses their gold, and then the chemist busts.
I'd need to do the maths, but 120 shots, 3s and 4s, re-rolling all hits, re-rolling ones to wound on one of them, or even 2.
Re-rolling all wounds on the other one as well, because they use their gold potentially.
Oh yes.
You need to roll a 3. No, sorry, you don't get extra gold. Never mind.
What you need is a bucket.
What you need is the small die, the 12 millimeters.
Yeah.
Big hands, a lot of space. I'd have to math it out, but I think you could shoot one. I mean, this is again bad shots, but loads of them. This is I'm going to shoot 40 dark shards at you, but you don't have a save style.
Dark shards are good, so that doesn't count.
But they don't have rend. So, but if the enemy doesn't have a save with that spell, you could. It's the same, skinks doing 3 shots each, mortal wounds on 6 to wound and stuff. It's just the amount. I mean, it's 5s and 5s or 4s and 5s or whatever it is, but it's just the amount of dice you throw at someone.
Yeah.
That's makes it valuable and predictable.
What this list really needs is a way to get more like 6s to mortal wounds would be amazing in this list with 120 shots. If you could find a way to give me that, I'd be very pleased.
No, but in Thring you can get 6s explode. So you got 40 guys.
Only 1 unit.
Yeah. But if you did 40 guys re-rolling hits, and then they all shot somehow and exploded in additional shots.
The thing is, in Thring, no, you cannot take Diviner and you lose 1 artifact.
Yeah.
So what this does that Mhornar can't, first of all, it gives bigger threat range on your run and shoot. So it's only +2, but it's better. Because you wouldn't be able to get. Could you get spell in the bottle? You could get spell in the bottle, but then you wouldn't get. You have to choose between spell in the bottle or flare pistol in Mhornar. You wouldn't be able to have both, so you choose between the threat range or the damage output.
Yep.
So it's when you get both, and then and it gives you the battle shock immunity because you won't be able to have Divino and Mhornar.
Yeah, I really like the footnote. It's my favorite part about this, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the footnote has
run and shoot
uses. So you can get the arkanauts will run and shoot turn 1, but one of the units can potentially run and shoot again turn 2.
Yeah, especially the engine riggers. If you put them on one side, and now you want to shoot something on the other side, you might need that 24, 30-inch threat range.
Yeah, if you could put the engine riggers on a flank, and then
you just move across.
They run turn 1 more towards the middle, and then turn 2 they run again towards your left.
Well, if they're in the middle, then they're fine, because 24 or 30-inch radius is just that's everything.
Yeah,
that's the board. No, awesome.
But for gun line, it's surprisingly mobile.
Yeah, I like it.
6-inch move.
I might try the last 3 lists here at some point. They seem a lot of fun.
Do it.
Yeah.
Almost out of batteries on this, though, so we should wrap this up. I'm about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's the last list. So hopefully we've come up with some lists that people wouldn't have thought of themselves, and give people some things to think about when they're list writing, rather than you do Zilfin and you use this, and then.
So if you have still 70 arkanauts left from the last book.
Yes,
I do. I could do this.
I think I'd have
but
I don't think I'd have enough Skyports. I'd maybe have to run them pistols.
Yeah, Skypikes. I just bought more.
Because I have more than enough Skyports, but I don't necessarily have all the other arkanauts.
You can always just give him an engine Skywarden pike. That's what I did for my second unit, so they don't all look the same. Just give him a pike and he holds up like this.
Yeah.
Straight.
Yeah,
those are cool.
But so I think there's a
awesome.
surprisingly fun list.
Yeah, I must admit, when we set out to do this show, and we said, okay, let's think about lists. I said, what is this rubbish? Why are we doing customs? Like, who would ever play this?
Mm-hmm.
And I was always, when writing lists, I was like, but it's better in this, and it's better in that. I can do this better in that. But I think in the end, we came up with lists that are viable and they could do well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think.
I'm interested to find out.
Try it out.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
for your next, if you want to wreck face on your next narrative event.
Pretty good.
So, I mean, I hope people enjoyed watching the show.
Yes.
Thank you for everyone that watched. Thank you both for joining and for writing some lists as well. And I don't know. I think potentially in the future we'll be looking at Tempest Eye. I just don't know yet whether it will be on this channel or not. And that was all I'll say to tease the matter.
I think we'll still do a proper one.
We might do. We don't know what.
But there might be some tease, but we don't know yet.
There might be some sort of collaboration happening at some point with someone.
Yeah.
No more than that. If you did enjoy the show, please hit like. And if you want to
hit like, subscribe.
Yeah, if you want to know,
join my Patreon.
Yeah,
we don't have a Patreon. No. You don't have one. I do. Click the link.
But if you want to see more shows from us, then hit subscribe, because then they will come up, and you can go to the subscribe tab, and there
we have loads of ideas for future shows.
Yes.
Endless spells we talked about earlier.
Yep.
Tempest Eye.
And I might start recording my games too. Yeah, maybe.
That's one thing we'd like to do, is when we're back, at least here in Europe, back to play games face to face. Maybe record some battle reports. Maybe pictures, maybe live footage, video, moving images.
Moving pictures? What is this?
Moving pictures.
Well, you'll have sound as well, will you?
Maybe. Yes.
Will it be 3D?
And one thing, check out the Skyport Discord. I think Carl is streaming some time to time some games. check that out. See how he does with his weird custom Skyport list.
Yeah, and comment below if you've got cool ideas for custom Skyport lists as well, because we'd like to see them. But
Or
yeah,
any topic you'd like to see covered in the future.
That too.
yes, that as well. But yeah, thank you for watching. See you again soon, Skyfarers.
Bye bye.